Welcome to the Uncommon Success Podcast. I am here with a special guest, Jordan Britton.
Hi.
And he's going to share his story of his uncommon success in business. It's been a while since we've done a podcast. Dad is not joining me today. He's got some work to do. I am joined here for the viewers watching with my little babe. I had Boaz Trenton on July 4th, so that's why we have not been around in a while. Dad is going to take baby so I can hang here with Jordan for a little bit. We appreciate all of you following and asking where we've been. We've been busy with having a baby and selling businesses. We have a lot of updates ourselves, but that's for another podcast. Today, I would love for you to hear Jordan's story because I was inspired by it for sure, and I've been following from afar. So Jordan, what business do you have?
Yeah, so like Rachel said, my name is Jordan, and I run a coffee shop called Britton Coffee. We're in Hanover, Pennsylvania right now, but looking to expand.
Well, you kind of have expanded in the last few years.
Yes, we have expanded. We have 3 shops now. We've been in business for 3 years, so we're averaging about a shop a year right now. And I have 4 kids, so I've been told I need to start a 4th one so every kid can have a shop.
Oh my goodness, no pressure there.
Yes. Yeah, so yeah, it's been just craziness. I feel like this is probably the first time in the last 3 years where I've had any substantial amount of time to take like a breath. Remember breathing?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of breathing, and yeah, it's really cool to chat with you guys. Every time I tell kind of the story, I'm sure you've had this, but when you tell the story of what's happened and you've had a particularly busy season, sometimes you're like, I forgot half of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just you're surviving. When you're so busy, you're just trying to survive and do what's most important. And you're not really taking a moment to, like you're saying, to breathe, to sit down and like process what just happened.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, oh, go. Got to get this. Okay. And then you're like, whoa, wait a second. Like,
yeah. And I have a bad memory to begin with. So photos are really important.
Right.
Yeah.
Journaling, documenting. I take my computer out a lot.
Okay.
Like with the TV show journey that we're on,
Yeah.
I'm documenting stuff because I will forget the details. And
yeah. I wish I could say I were so responsible. I will accidentally get photos, mostly of like us in the background of like a product or something, and then go, remember when that happened? I completely forgot that whole year. So
yeah.
So
is your background in coffee? I know these answers, but the listeners do not. So what's
yes.
Okay.
I wish I could say that I were the type of person. I've always dreamt I was the type of person who was particularly artsy, whether it was instruments or like actual drawing and art or things like that. I don't know that I have like the skill of being like in my day, I guess it would be in our day, it was like they had really long like hair, like
the guys did,
yeah, really long
to
hair, the eyes, yes. And they always had their hair like up in ponytails, or they had like rubber bands on their arms, and they played guitar at like every social function that they could. And I was just never that person. I was like good enough at those things to kind of get by. But my personality type and my skills are way more like the boring side of business, which is like numbers. Like, for example, I spent my birthday this year for the first 3 hours. I drove an hour away to a coffee shop I had never been to, and I just looked at Excel sheets. And it was like the best birthday ever. Like,
wow.
I was so excited by it.
Wow, that's not me.
So my background is not in coffee or anything artistic like that, but I knew that our area where we live in Hanover needed somewhere where people could get together and build community, particularly at the time when we were starting, which was, not to get too far ahead, but it was right after COVID. And so everyone was feeling very isolated. We were kind of newish to the area because we'd moved back home, but we were feeling like there's just not a ton of, maybe because people don't have a choice, but there was not really community, and there weren't a ton of places, unfortunately, that were even still open.
Yeah.
So maybe there were places like that, but they had kind of come and gone. And so we knew we wanted to start something that was community centered. And I knew I wanted to start something that wasn't as physically demanding as the job I had been doing, which was construction. And so we kind of accidentally stumbled into coffee.
How did the idea of coffee even start?
Yes. So I was, as I mentioned, I was working construction, and I don't know if you've ever done like serious construction work, but there's
No.
a joke amongst tradespeople that like, yeah, you know, that like 75% of the job is picking up tools and putting them down and cleaning. Like that's most of construction. And then like in the little bits in between is when you do the actual work. And I don't have the world's best like back or spine. And so I was getting very tired from it. And I knew it wasn't going to last forever. But I was making these really long drives to customers that I had kind of acquired or met while we lived in Philly. So I was driving 2 hours back and forth every day.
Wow.
I was making what felt like really good money to me. Turns out I was just young and I'd never made any money before. And so it felt awesome. But it wasn't really a lot of money in hindsight. But I thought I felt like so rich. Like stop at Wawa and buy anything I want.
Yeah.
At any moment, rich.
Yeah.
Like that was the level that I was living at.
Sure.
But I was getting really tired on the drives and borderline unsafe, or not even borderline, just unsafe. But for whatever reason, I wouldn't wake up like the extra half hour early to make my own coffee. And I was like, somebody needs to open a coffee shop near us. And I used to drive by this building, and I used to drive by it. And I always thought, man, that would be the perfect spot for like just any business, because on our end of town, like we sort of live where there's a lot of farms, and there's a lot of just sort of greenery and property and like nothing else going on. So there's like the town, which is like Hanover proper, and that's where like all the businesses were crammed in. But all of us on the like the south end, kind of closer to Maryland, we didn't have anything. And so we were just kind of at our house having dinner with our friends, and I said, somebody should open a coffee shop in that building. And one of my friends chimed in and was like, why don't you do it? And I was like, because you need one thing to start a business. And that's the one thing I don't have. And that's money.
No, wait a sec. I thought you were super rich.
No.
From all your new clients.
Yeah, I was Wawa rich, not start a business rich. So we had no money, and we had kind of gone down this path of doing everything debt-free in our life.
Yep.
And which is cool. An update to that is we're very, very close to achieving that goal pretty much across the board for ourselves.
Amazing.
But we didn't have any money to do it. And someone said, well, you know, my friend started a food truck. What if you did something like that? I had run a food truck with my dad growing up.
I didn't know that about you.
This is stuff you don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Learning something.
So it's funny thinking about like the patterns of life. Like I thought back like 20 years, my dad renovating literally a trailer to start a shave ice business in. And then now some 20 odd years later, I'm in my barn in freezing cold weather in the beginning of January crying, renovating this trailer. And it's funny how life repeats itself. But I had done the mobile like travel and I was not interested in that at all. Mad props to anyone out there who does that.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
It's a lot of kind of like construction. It's a lot of setup. It's a lot of cleaning. The actual job itself that you might actually enjoy is like an hour. And so I knew I didn't want to do that. And so I thought, well, what if we did a trailer that was also a drive-through and we just parked it in one spot? And so we did that. I was so unsure that it would work, actually, that I painted the word coffee on the side of the trailer instead of our logo.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this doesn't work. I'll just sell it.
Yeah.
Right?
I heard you say that once. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
that was so smart. Like being a viewer of your business from afar, right? Like we're like 2 hours away. We were friends before you moved.
Sure.
So I've been part of your Facebook fan club forever. But I never noticed like, oh, it just says coffee.
Yeah.
Like it never like registered like, oh, the logo's not on there, the name's not on there. And I don't think that was a bad thing. That was a really smart strategic
it was
move.
hedging my bets 100%. Yeah, because actually the week that we painted it on, which I don't know if I've said this in this exact timeline, but the week that we were set to paint it was also the week we were set to like turn everything on and see if it worked. And like I ran the electrical.
Oh.
And I had people to call, but like it was just me doing it. And it was 220 volts, which is like, if you make a mistake, you can die. So it was like very like, I was very nervous. Like, I think I turned it on from afar. I think I like backed up and like made like a switch. And what happened right before we painted that was I blew an espresso machine up.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I heard about it through your
Yes.
Facebook, but didn't.
So that
know
was the timeline. That had just happened. And like,
And was that your fault because of the electrical stuff?
Not because of the electrical stuff.
Okay.
But it was my fault.
Okay.
So morale was at an all-time low. And I was ready to like throw in the towel. And we had to paint something on this trailer. And I was like, we're not even going to do this anyways. Let's just paint coffee. And so that's how that came about.
Okay.
And so we opened for a grand total of 4 hours before our new espresso machine broke. Which is another story.
Oh, no.
And it was like fishing it out the side of a horse trailer, like kind of where their head would go. Like it's a small window. And we had to like kind of tilt this 200-pound espresso machine and like shove it out the window and drive it to York and like beg the guy at his doorstep, like, please fix this for me.
Oh, my goodness.
Shout out Shane. He's awesome. He's the best guy ever and didn't charge me and was like just super nice about it all.
Yeah.
And got us back up and running. But we ran that. And when I say we, I mean people who knew what they were doing. I don't know if you know this, but at this point, and for probably the next 8 to 9 months of our business, I still didn't know what a latte was.
Oh.
I didn't know how to make anything. I didn't know how to make any cups of coffee except for like Wawa, like drip coffee. And it was okay. It did okay. At the end, it actually started to lose money.
Oh, no.
So by that point, we had already started renovating to go into our building.
Okay,
and
so
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Your coffee trailer, was that parked in the same parking lot
Yes.
as your first building?
Yes.
So it was the building you were driving by, scouting out, but you just parked the trailer there first.
For $150 a month, yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we developed a hardcore like group of customers
Yeah,
that
it was
loved
again
us.
strategic. You
Yes.
parked it where you were hoping to go, so your customers don't have to follow you.
Right. Unfortunately, still not enough customers to make it profitable. So as we were renovating this building, I did legitimately think many times, like, am I just doubling down on a mistake? Like, was this a mistake to begin with? And now I'm about to make a more expensive version of this mistake? And we...
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I love that you're sharing this part about your story because a lot of people who want to go into business, they're scared.
Yeah.
Right. And like money is a thing. I think back to like our story with starting this TV show. It came up as an idea. I had no idea what kind of money was going to be dumped into this.
Probably good
idea.
you didn't know.
It was so good because we would have never done it. We would have never started. But like same thing with you. Like you start with an idea. You start with your coffee trailer thinking, okay, like I have enough cash to kind of like put it together. But
yeah,
like you
I
don't
had
know
half.
all the details. And then when you're in the middle of it, when you know more of the details, you're like, oh my goodness, I must have made a mistake. This is like terrible. I felt that, especially with this TV show process. Like, what are we doing? This is expensive. But like, if we knew all the details, we probably would have never done it.
Yeah. No, I definitely wouldn't have.
Those that are listening that are in the middle of something, it's encouraging to know you're not alone in those hard moments.
Right.
Because as a business owner, we've all been there to some capacity.
For sure.
So.
And if you have the personality type that I think we have, which is like, I'm just not going to quit. Like, I'm not going to give up. You know, there are times when you need to decide this isn't the right choice. But outside of that, I think if you know you have that in you, then just make the jump because you're not going to be able to plan for everything. You're not going to be able to predict what's going to happen. You just have to do it because you will find your way out. Again, you have to know yourself enough. Like there are certain people that I say that to and they're like, oh yeah, I'm not going to start anything. And I'm like, that's good. Like it's good. You know that.
Yourself.
Right.
Yes.
But I would say to encouragement for anyone out there who's thinking about starting something, especially if you're like bootstrapping it for lack of better words, sort of like Rachel and I are, like people have from time to time thought, there was even a rumor going around at one point, like, we got family money to start our business.
Oh, I hear that all the time.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. If there were family money to be had, I would have taken it. 100% I would have taken it. I would have taken all of it. What are you talking about?
Yeah. And is that a bad thing?
No.
I mean, like, seriously, I think that is such a neat thing to be able to make money to then hand down to your children.
Oh, for sure.
That is such a blessing. Like, I would love to do that for my kids.
Right.
But, like, you and I, we worked for what we have. And is that a bad thing? No.
Right.
I think people that have that mindset might be jealous. I mean,
for
I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've found myself at times like that before. Not in the same way, but like I would watch Fixer Upper and there were times when they would shoot, you know, for me, it was Chip out in the farm and tending to the animals. And I used to go like, there's no way he does all that stuff. Like, there's just no way. And then finally I just was like, no, maybe there's somebody out there that works harder than you. Like there might just be someone out there that is at a higher level than you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me anyway, it's like if I'm not willing to admit that, that's when I start to go to those cheap, like, oh, they probably got it given to them, or like, oh, they probably got lucky. And at the end of the day, I think if you meet any of those people in real life, you're like, oh no, yeah, no, they're actually like, they're legit. They're really hard workers, and I'm not on their level at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I was just going to say,
yeah.
so we got into the building Tuesday morning, a random Tuesday morning at 5 a.m. we opened and line out the door. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like we did it. Like this is going to work.
Awesome.
And there were, I mean, this could be an hour and a half long podcast, miracles along the way of like old gas station equipment in the building that my landlord didn't want that ended up being worth $5,000.
Hey.
Yeah, and I had to call him back and be like, hey, man, this is worth like a lot more than we thought. And he was like, whatever, do whatever you want with it. And like we did a Kickstarter and we ended up raising $6,000. And we just got like every lucky break. And, you know, in hindsight, we now realize those were miracles. But at the time, it was just enough to like keep us going. In fact, I don't think I've told anyone this story. And you might have some connections or you might not. But there is a gentleman by the name of Chris Eisenhuth who runs a plumbing company right around here, actually. It's going to kill me because I think it's Ike's Plumbing or something like that. He's very nearby. So shout out to Chris if he ever ends up watching this. But he does a lot of contracts for the Dunkin' Donuts in the area. So he's like their plumber. And he saw we were doing this and he reached out to me, you know, this was 2 or 3 years ago now, and said, hey, look, if you need any help with plumbing, let me know. I'll drive out there. I was like, dude, that's super nice of you. There's almost no plumbing involved, I thought. So I was like, don't worry about it. Like, it's cool. We've got it. Yeah. Isn't that how every project goes?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm thinking like, it's not a big deal. We'll just I've done plumbing. Like, it's just a little bit. We got down to the last like 2 weeks before we had to open. And again, mind you, I could spare like not a single day of not being open because like I was so tight on money. And I was like, I need his help. He needs to come help me or I'm not going to finish this. And it turned out, obviously, to be more than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And so he's 2.5 hours away. And I'm thinking, man, this is super nice of him. Like, he's going to drive 5 hours, essentially. Yeah. And the day comes, and he's supposed to come at 10. 11 rolls around, he's not there. 12 rolls around, he's not there. I'm like, okay. I don't know how to, like, be like, come do this free plumbing that you said you do, but like I'm kind of in a bind here. Yeah. And so I call him after a couple hours. He's like, dude, I'm so sorry. Dunkin' Donuts had emergencies on my route to you. Like literally he was fixing a Dunkin' like every 30 minutes on his way to me.
Oh my goodness.
So I was like, dude, listen, it's getting to be like 3 o'clock at this point now. I'm like, listen, if you can't come out, I totally get it. He's like, no, I'm still coming. Yeah. He gets there at 6 p.m. We work until 11 o'clock at night. Wow. And I'm broke, obviously still. But I'm like, dude, please let me give you something. Like, it's not going to be much, but like, just let me give you something. You brought a bunch of materials. Yeah. Your time is incredibly valuable. Like, I know probably what you charge per hour. And like this, we would call an emergency call. And he was like, no, in fact, God told me to give you this. And he shook my hand and left money in my hand. And I was like, dude, you're going to make me cry. Like, please don't. Wow. Like, this is super nice of you, but like, you don't have to do this. And he said, no, I did a job yesterday. It was in cash. Yeah. He said, I don't even know how much it is. You know, you just keep it. Oh my goodness. So I go home. It's late at night. I didn't think anything of it. I just kind of threw it on my dresser. It's like midnight now. Yeah. I wake up the next morning. It's $1,200 in cash. Wow. And it was literally like, that was like 15% of my whole budget. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, we can open now. Like, we can have hats. Like, it was a big deal for us back then. And so it was just miracle after miracle. And we ended up getting this first shop open and it just took off. And I realize now in hindsight, as I say that, it felt like it was taking off, but that was only compared to a trailer that was losing money. And the kind of the second part of it, if I can share, is my buddy Jason had come to work with me for my construction company at the time. He had quit his job and he had been working for the company for 4 months, maybe. And I was super nervous to tell him this, but I could tell the coffee shop was right at that pivotal moment where it was like, if I don't give this more attention, it's going to be bad and people are going to experience something bad and they're not going to come back. Like, it was at that tipping point where it's like, you either have to do it or you have to not do it. And I was also getting really tired of construction. Tell me, is your personality type like this? Because I think maybe it is. When you like feel maybe for a little bit of time, like you're kind of done with something, or like it's probably time for this season to end. For me, if I feel that, it'll be like a week max before I'm like, it's completely dead in my mind. Like I'm completely done with it. Like I worked one more construction job after that and I was like, I hate doing this now. And I actually really like construction, but I just felt it so strong in my spirit. Like this season's over. Like, and I didn't need to like take a lot of time to like sort of mourn it, I guess. It was just like, no, this is done now. Like, are you like that or is that just me?
I think it depends. There's definitely a lot of moving parts in my life and things that we have to grieve, like the horse farm that we owned, we no longer own. We did sell that business since our last podcast. So we are down the horse business.
This is breaking news, guys.
It is breaking news.
Wow, okay.
And I'm sharing without my dad, so sorry. But yeah, like I think each thing that I've had to grieve, like business relation wise, has been different. So the horse farm, I'm actually like, our studio is at the horse farm house. So I'm renting the house on the horse farm from the new owner. So I've been able to kind of celebrate the selling of it and not have to grieve it because I'm still here. I get to see the beautiful horses and all of the progress. I mean, this farm was the first farm we ever flipped. It was nasty, overgrown, run down. I mean, it was awful. And like now it's the most beautiful it's ever been. And I get to enjoy it without all the headaches, right? Like, so the sale of the farm, our full-time farmhand, he's now managing this business for the new owner. So he kind of came with the sale. So I'll see him out here every day and I'll wave to him. And sometimes I'll stop and say hi and be like, oh, how's it going? And he's like, oh, the zero-turn mower broke and we can't cut the grass because the mower's broken. I'm like, oh, not my problem.
I don't have to worry about that.
Not my problem. Oh, there's some drama and not my problem. Like, it's just so nice. So I didn't really have to mourn this. Okay. But there have been seasons. I'm pretty much in one now. Can't really share too much now. But there is something in my life where I'm kind of like grieving.
So maybe I'm just a robot who feels nothing.
I don't know. But at the same time, like, it is easy to kind of shut it off if you have something new to look forward to. And I'm also in that season where, like, with the TV show, things are kind of happening. And so I'm able to kind of push that grieving aside because I have this to look forward to. Okay. So I don't know, like with you, if there's nothing to look forward to, is it still easy for you to just like turn it off?
No, I would agree with you on that. Yes. Yeah, you're right. Because I had a time where I left a job and I had nothing lined up, and I definitely was like, it was a hard process for sure. Yeah, I think for me, like when I almost never feel like I'm done with this now unless there is something lined up. Yeah. Like when there's something else coming up and I feel like my heart is like stirred towards that. I don't know. It was like a light switch for me. Like, and that's, you know, maybe I was just lucky in that instance because it can be hard a lot of times to say goodbye to things that you're like, I really am, like, you almost feel like on the fence, even though you kind of know, like, this is over now. Yeah. And I think for me, like, maybe I should just be grateful that, like, the next thing was lined up. Yeah. But the moral of that story was Jason didn't know any of this. And so he just joined a business that little did he know was about to end. And so I had to, like, call him aside and be like, hey, man, I know you just quit your job of, like, 8 years.
To come work for you at the coffee shop.
Well, no, he was working at the construction.
At the construction. Right, that's right, that's right. Okay, gotcha.
And he didn't even know I was planning on leaving the construction business, let alone like shutting it down. And I was like, dude, I'm done with this. Like, I just can't do it anymore. I can't even bring myself to do it. And I need to go over to the coffee shop. Now, at this point, the coffee shop can't pay me. So I was like, can I interest you in being the world's most expensive barista and come work for me at the coffee shop? And so the transition, like, maybe there are business owners out there that would want to know this, but like practically, like I had a little bit of Wawa money savings like left over. And I pretty much lived on that for like 2 months with no income while I paid Jason the income I had hoped to take. Yep. And that's sort of how we made that transition. And it was right around that time. It was our first January, which for those of you who are not in any sort of retail or restaurant industry, the J months, January, June, and July, are the months you want to quit. Those are the worst months, like by far. And the sales had in December, you're like, I'm like, I am a titan of industry. Like no one has ever been a better business owner than me. In December, that's how I'm feeling, king of the world.
Yeah.
And then January rolls around. And I'm like, no, I'm done. I quit. Like I can't do this. I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And it turns out you just have to learn how to ride those highs and lows.
Yeah.
In any business. But for us, that's kind of the timeline. So right around that time, I had decided we need another product. Like coffee is not enough. We have to sell something else.
Interesting.
So I started Googling donut machines, which is a crazy connection because my dad had bought a donut machine when he owned his shave ice trailer way back in the day.
I don't feel like they go together.
No, they don't at all, which is why he sold it promptly after. But he had done the research and looked into it and had an idea of how it worked. So I called him up and kind of picked his brain a little bit. And then I bought like the, I don't know, it was probably like a Japanese knockoff of a real donut machine. The real ones, they're called Mark V Atomatic, in case you want to look them up. They are $17,000 new. We still don't have one because I don't have $17,000. The knockoff was $1,700.
Hey.
So we bought that. But we didn't have a vent hood. So we asked our local church if we could borrow their kitchen. We built a wooden platform, and I would get up at 4:30 in the morning every morning, drive over there, help my donut person lift the donut machine up underneath of their vent hood because they still needed their burners during the week. And then he would make it. It was a donut a minute. To give you some context now.
A donut a minute?
Right. To give you some context now, it's approximately 50 donuts a minute, I would say, that we can make.
Yeah,
essentially.
That's totally doable.
Yeah. A donut a minute is not great.
No.
Turns out, not a profitable business idea. But at the time, it was just getting people in the door. It was like a loss leader. And we started making them, and we got this explosion of growth. Our numbers literally doubled.
Because of the donuts?
From week to week. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And we had a newspaper article written about us at that same time, which in my head, I sort of was like, okay, I guess we'll do a newspaper. Like, who reads newspapers?
Thank you for the reminder because Corn Maze opened last weekend, and I haven't reached out to the local newspapers about my article yet.
There you go.
People do read the newspaper.
Yeah.
Okay, so funny story.
They do.
Last year, I was in a giant grocery store and was actually there to like pick up a newspaper to read the article that was printed. And some random dude walks up to me and he goes, "Hey, you're the girl who's in the newspaper this morning." And I was like, what? And then I had one of my children with me. And they're like, "Yeah, look, mommy's in the newspaper." And
Local celebrity.
I know. It was so funny. I was like, okay, I guess people do read the newspaper. And it does go digital too. So that helps.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
I thought no one read it at all, ever. And we were not prepared. They also got the wording a little wrong. They were like, Britton now serves breakfast.
Oh, no.
And I was like, I think what I said was, you could have a donut for breakfast.
Yeah.
So we had a bunch of people coming in and they were like, I want a bacon on rye with, And I was like, no, we don't do that
We
here.
do breakfast. It's donuts.
Yeah.
Donuts.
We have cake donuts, and that's what you can have. And so we did that. And then from there, it was basically just, to this point now, starting each shop has really just been an attempt to do right by the people who are a part of our team who got us to where we are. So, for example, Jason. My goal from him from day one when we started our construction company was I wanted him to be able to pay back his student loan debt and buy a house. Which for him, at the amount of money that he had been making, and he has 4 kids as well.
Wow.
We have 8 between the two of us. Our 2 families is like 12 people.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my goal. You can't sustain that with one shop. The numbers just do not add up. I don't care how busy you are. They just don't work, especially the way that things are today with the price of the materials that we've had. And so I knew, like, okay, if this is going to happen for him, we're going to have to start another one. I didn't know that I wanted to start another, because I was finally actually getting a paycheck.
Right.
And I was like, this is awesome. Maybe we just stay here.
Yeah.
But I knew ultimately this is not going to work for him. Yeah. And so we started the second one. He was a 50-50 owner.
Okay.
He did not get 50% of the funds up front. He got very close, but it just ended up being more expensive than we anticipated. He's since paid me back the full amount now for his half. So he's now a full 50% owner for that shop.
Okay.
But he helps run every aspect of our business. And then we started another one. One of our guys, Alex, who had come on day one of our new building.
Mm-hmm.
He's now the manager there, and he's our coffee roaster. So I feel like I just talked so much, but that's all of it.
I mean, why not add another one? It sounds like you got this machine oiled and running smoothly. So.
Yeah, we're working on it. It is getting more like that now.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I did swear I'm not going to ever start another shop that I have to renovate. Like, those were my words.
Okay, so earlier in this podcast, you were saying you're not artsy. But yet you do have an eye for design because all of your shops are really well designed.
Yeah, I learned that at an old job.
Okay.
And I wouldn't say that I have an eye for design that I'm okay. I would say I'm not. I don't think I'll ever be able to change with the times, I guess is sort of what I'm getting at. I think I'm that person who, like, they always say, like, whatever was in style when you were 25, like music, clothes, everything, like, that's what you think is cool forever. I'm a little bit afraid I might be stuck there, but I just think, like, black and white is always the classics.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I think they never go out of style. And so I learned a little bit of that, but yeah, I definitely, Jason is bad, like aggressively bad at design.
Okay.
So in comparison, obviously I make all the design
Poor
choices.
Jason is not here to defend himself.
He's not, but he would be the first to tell you. Yeah, he's said if he were to open a coffee shop, it would look like a mix between an early 2000s Urban Outfitters and Hot Topic. So, like, that would be his design choice, which, like, if that's your style, go for
goodness.
it. But it's not ours. And it's also it's more expensive to do it that way too. I feel like he was like, let's put plywood on everything. I was like, dude, plywood's like $75 a sheet now.
Right.
I'm not doing plywood everywhere.
Well, that's your shops. You have all the organic, natural elements there. You kept the concrete floors.
Yes.
I'm assuming they were concrete.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I mean, and it works.
Yeah, we do use wood. But again, like, I'm balling on a budget. So, like,
Yeah.
I'll have to tell you, by the way,
What?
actually, after the podcast, or I guess I can share it here. I don't know the name of the business. I'll share it
Okay.
with you because you will benefit from this.
Okay.
There's a place, and all you listeners out there, there's a place nearby here. I want to say it's Mount Joy. So it's not
Okay.
terribly far away.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's like an hour and 45 minutes from where I'm
Yeah.
at now.
Oh, no.
But,
Hold on a second.
is that me or you?
Oh, that's me.
And now for a word from our sponsors. We should get sponsors for this. There's a guy who breaks down industrial-sized pallets. And
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen our ceilings in our shops. I'll have to send you a photo. It's really beautiful kiln-dried pine that's
Okay.
been planed and nails removed. And it is insanely cheap.
Now, I think you've done that in your farmhouse that you renovated.
I did, yes.
Okay,
I did it everywhere. I did it everywhere. Yeah.
Yes, it looks
now
good.
there's one room that I did a different board that guy also sells. Not as nice. I would not do that again.
Okay.
But he sells a true 1x6. It's 37 inches long. It's
Okay.
not a very long board. This is getting into the weeds for all of you out there. But if you want to look him up, I found him on Facebook Marketplace, and he's like,
sweet.
he's like my hookup now.
Yeah.
But the whole ceiling in our first shop was $400, and it was $4,000 from Lowe's to do the same thing.
Holy smokes.
Yes.
Yes, I would love this person's contact.
Yes, and he's
Like-
got all kinds of stuff, and it's beautiful. So he's getting a little bit of a
shout out
here.
here,
Yeah. So, but yeah, I do some of the design work in the shops, and I would say I do more design, and Jason does more like practical, like
the
'cause
day-to-day running it.
He does more barista-ing, yeah. So he
Okay.
knows like this should go here and this should go here. So we kind of we'll complement each other in that way.
Yeah,
I'll
well,
give him
that's-
his flowers.
Well, that's important when you run a business. When you admit you can't, well, especially as you grow, right? If you're a small company, you can probably do it all. And you
You have
probably
to.
did do it all
You
in the
have to
beginning.
do it all, yeah,
I mean, like
yeah.
looking at myself, thinking back to the first year at the corn maze, the Gilbertsville farm, I ran the whole thing myself every Friday, Saturday, Sunday from before we opened till after we closed. That was me, myself, and I. There were days where I was climbing the tower. I would do the ticket booth, then climb the tower when people went in, and then if somebody else pulled in, I would climb down the tower,
Oh my
take their money, and then explain how to play the game, and then go back up. And if someone waves their flag, you lock up the trailer where the ticket booth is, you go in the maze, help the person out there, and then come back and go back up in the tower. Like there's, that's how you have to start sometimes
Right.
when you don't have the money.
Yeah.
But at this point, my business has grown. I mean, gosh, just for being open like 3 months out of the year, I'm spending $20,000 in wages because I can't run it myself. We've grown to the point where I need like 20 people
Yeah.
part-time, you know, like.
Do you want to hear something really scary?
Your numbers?
I just looked at this yesterday. I tell all my staff and I tell everybody, I'm a pretty open book.
Yeah.
Our payroll right now, and this is not like me getting paid. This is just the people who work at our shops.
Well, yeah. That's my numbers too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is $17,000 a week.
I believe it for 3 shops. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like 35 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't get less scary out there, folks.
I know.
It just gets
I know.
bigger.
It's yeah. I feel that I have to pay my people a bunch per hour because it is so seasonal.
Yeah.
To get quality help,
Sure.
I can't be like, oh, come in at minimum wage and, you know, $7 and some cents an hour.
Right.
You know?
And for us, our people are everything. It's the entire
Yes.
business. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
the whole business. And so I joke, there are baristas who, if they work 40 hours between their pay and their tips, will get more than Jason made when he started working as a salary for my construction business.
Mm-hmm.
And they make what I would call a legitimate salary.
Yeah.
So we try to do our best as much as we can, particularly the people that show that they're great. Like
Right.
they are, if they leave, we're in bad shape. And those
Yeah.
are the people that you're like,
Yeah,
okay, we
you
gotta
want to
pay
pay
these
them
people.
what they're worth. I
Right.
mean, I don't start everybody at a lot, you know, but if they show that they're worth it, I do give raises. I
Right.
do pay what they're worth because, like, I can't run it myself anymore. I am not where I'm at today because of myself.
right.
I mean, yeah, I put in the time and the work, but, like, the people that are backing me up, my team, it's all about them, too,
Yeah.
because I wouldn't be where I'm at.
Shout out to all of our teams, because
I know,
all of the
right?
Britton Coffee people are going to see this too. So shout out to all of you guys. You know, I think you're awesome.
Yeah.
So
Well, I guess that's a good place to end this. I appreciate your time.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
drove like 2 hours to get here today.
something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
You brought some coffee and some merch, so I'm very excited to finally try your coffee. I've been watching from afar. So
Yes.
if you want to be entertained, follow Britton Coffee on Facebook, Instagram.
It's sort of like a car crash where
No, it's not.
you can't help but
But
look.
watch.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
because
I
you're
get
like, this
that.
could go really well.
No.
Let me say it this way. It's more like when those people on those dirt bikes go up those like giant ramps and they're going to do some crazy like
Yo,
backflip.
shout out to our neighbor
Yeah.
who bought our previous property. What Dad and I just sold like 4 months ago.
Yeah.
Across the
And
street.
they do that?
He's like a pro and he's 12. He has a giant ramp and they're building a 50-foot airbag
no.
thing to do a backflip on a
Never.
dirt bike. So when they first bought the house, I went over being a good neighbor.
Yeah.
I was going to end the podcast. I'm totally not. I have to tell the story.
Go ahead.
I was like, oh, hi, neighbor. I heard you guys like to dirt bike. I had no idea who these people were. It's like, we love dirt biking too. We have got trails. We should come over sometime. Oh, yeah, sure. Cool. Right. I had no idea.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law knew the people and she goes, oh, that kid's a pro. I'm like, what are you talking about? And now every day we go back and forth from like where I live and where my parents live. We're 2 separate farms, but we're right next to each other. So my boys, I let them ride their dirt bikes to my parents' house. And so I'll follow them in the car because I have a baby, or else I'd ride a dirt bike too.
Yeah.
And they're riding their dirt bikes, rubbernecking it, looking at this kid's ramp as they're building it and watching him go off the dirt bike. I'm like, oh, boys, because they keep saying, when are they going to come ride with us? When are they? I'm like, I had no idea this kid was a pro. Like,
Yeah.
I thought you were on the same level. So,
Yeah. And that's the
I
thing.
mean-
You have to watch him.
yes.
Yeah. And when you watch it on TV, it's a little bit less, but this is what we all think. It's like, this is either going to be awesome
Yeah.
or this is going to be
Awful.
awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say Britton Coffee falls right in the awful like
No.
category. Like it could be one or the other. We don't know yet,
No,
but
no,
you have to
no.
follow along. It's too compelling.
No, dude. Britton Coffee Co. has come a long way in 3 years.
It has. It has.
And it's been a fun adventure, especially you and Jason and your personalities. You got to watch just to see what you two are up to because you're up to.
Thank you for following
a lot of
along, by the
things,
way. I
so-
appreciate that. I also follow other small businesses,
Yeah.
and like I'm like, they don't know this, but I know everything about them, and it's like a little weird to be like, I know everything about you,
but you're also, so for me, I follow you because I'm doing my homework.
okay.
We're a complete different business.
Yeah.
Totally, probably different clientele, so to speak, right? Like I'm a entertainment destination, you're a coffee
Sure.
place. But the way that you market, I watch what posts get a lot of
Okay.
like likes and hearts
Yeah.
and comments. I'm like, oh, he was really open and vulnerable here. So let me share this piece over here on my business.
Yeah.
And like you can
Arguably, I'm too much.
learn. No, you're definitely fun to watch.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for having me.
yes, thanks for coming. And I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more from Britton Coffee Co. in the future. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you in the next podcast.